We are very lucky to be joined on the program today by a candidate running for the Senate in the great state of Kentucky. Charles Booker returns to the show. Charles, welcome back.
Hey, brother, it's good to be with you again.
It's good to have you here. It's good to have you, trying to take Rand Paul out of the Senate. That would be a very nice thing. So this is your second Senate run. You had a very narrow loss to Amy McGrath in the last cycle. So you've decided to run again. So tell me a little bit about the decision to do so, what lessons you're drawing from your last run. How did that whole process come about?
Well, the whole reason I got into politics is because people from communities like mine, I'm from the hood in the west end of Louisville, folks are demanding change. It's not the narrative you hear at the national level. When folks think about places like Kentucky and now West Virginia, they don't really think about the people on the ground. And I'm running for Senate as a testament to the forgotten places. And we are lifting up a lot of people who have been demanding change that nobody cared to listen to. And I'm proud to do it.
So, I sort of jumped ahead of my intro and was talking about Rand Paul, but obviously we have a Democratic primary first, which isn't that many months away. What is the current state of the Democratic primary? Is it gonna, like in your last run, you had this like establishment-backed candidate in Amy McGrath. It looks like it was a much broader field. What's the state of the Democratic primary right now?
Well, at this moment, because of the organizing that we've done in my campaign, from the hood to the holler, we've been bringing people together. We've made ourselves inevitable. And what I mean by that is the state party, folks at the national level realize that we are building the coalition to win this race, and they're getting behind us. So we are essentially clearing a path early to knock out Rand Paul. And it didn't require us to back away from our vision of a progressive future, that poverty becomes a thing of the past. And I'm proud of that, man. The people that were thinking about running, many of them already stepped back saying, we're gonna help Charles. So we're organizing early, treating it like GOTV right now.
That's awesome. Now I'm glad to see people coming together behind your campaign. So in the last run, Amy McGrath went on to run against Mitch McConnell, and it was not a particularly close race. So I'm curious, like it's not against Mitch McConnell. That Mitch McConnell was in Republican leadership. You're going up against Rand Paul, who occupies a very different position in the Republican Party. But it's also a different cycle. It's a different country post-pandemic and all that. So tell me a little bit about how you run potentially, like once we get past the Democratic primary, against Rand Paul. Does that influence any of what you're focusing on in your campaign, any of your strategy?
In many ways, our focus is the same. Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul are two sides of the same devastatingly horrible coin. And on the ground here in Kentucky, no one likes Rand Paul. He's a joke. He's like a cartoon character. No one really pays him attention. We're so used to being screwed, we just work around him. And the way that we're going to beat him is honestly the same way we were going to beat Mitch McConnell. We're inspiring people to believe things can be different. We will attack the way that Rand Paul has torn us apart and has sowed all of these divisions and has weaponized hate. We will call that out, but this is bigger than him. Folks are looking for a future where poverty, again, is a thing of the past. They're not rationing their insulin. They don't have to choose between the rent and putting food on the table. Those things are not partisan. And because we are lifting up the issues in a real way and doing relational organizing, we're stepping out of the typical path where Democrats say, oh, don't go there, that's Trump country. No, that's my family. Mm-hmm. And when we go there, we find people ready for change. And now I put out a call for volunteers. We had over 10,000 folks already signing up to organize with us from all 120 counties, money from Kentucky. Now, we don't have a lot of money. I'm from one of the poorest zip codes in Kentucky. But our fundraising is showing that people that only have a couple dollars are giving it to us. And we are building this infrastructure that is going to beat Rand Paul, but then also win races down ballot. And I'm proud of that.
That's awesome. Well, and I'm also glad that you're thinking about the effect it'll have on those down ballot races. And having so many people wanting to volunteer, like my fear always, but especially right now, is apathy. And it's great to see that there's some evidence that people in your state at least aren't feeling apathetic, that they are gonna be ready to engage with this election cycle.
The cynicism is real. A lot of people do feel hopeless. But I think the pandemic, the height of racial tension, and then this tornado, this storm that has really ripped across half the Commonwealth, people are at a place where we're so desperate. We don't have the time to be hopeless. We got to get to work. And that's what you're seeing in the face of this storm. People are coming together to provide aid, care, resources all over Kentucky. My campaign has been focused on relief, and we put out a call for volunteers, and people from every county are jumping in to say, how do we help our family? That is the story that you don't hear when you hear about a Rand Paul or Mitch McConnell, but that is Kentucky. And if we lean into that love and that unity, we'll win.
I was glad to see that Rand Paul decided to take a different position on disaster relief. In this case, he's actually for it. So that was a nice change from the historic precedent with Rand Paul, that he actually was willing to pretend that he cared whether his constituents lived or died. But I want to ask you about the context of the race, because you're going to be running. It's in Kentucky. You're focused on Kentucky, like people in Kentucky, but it's in the United States. And in theory, yeah, and nothing's set in stone. You could be running in a race where the Build Back Better bill passes, the child tax credit continues. In theory, student loan debt could be canceled. The eviction moratorium could be extended. There's a lot that could be done by the federal government to make the lives of your potential constituents better. And so far, a lot of that doesn't look like it hasn't happened, and it doesn't look like it's gonna happen. So are you at all worried about what some of the federal government, the Biden administration, the Senate with Joe Manchin, the effect they might have on your race that's in most ways out of your control?
It is really frustrating to see this opportunity to really help a lot of people in a place like Kentucky being held up by the filibuster, being held up by politicians like Joe Manchin, who are choosing money in their pockets over the lives of their constituents. It is frustrating, and it does make it harder for anyone that is saying, hey, give your government a chance to work for you. In a place like Kentucky, it doesn't work for us. And so honestly, our organizing, our focus, and I'm demanding a Kentucky New Deal that speaks to infrastructure, addressing structural inequity and creating booming, sustainable economies all across the Commonwealth, but ultimately across the country. We're demanding this because we've already lost it all. And what we're seeing in Washington now just further affirms why we need to go to Washington and do it ourselves. And so as frustrating as it is, it really just lights a fire in me to do this all the more. And the people of Kentucky feel the same way.
Yeah, one of the most important, I think, positions that current senators have been forced to clarify is their position on sort of the structure of the Senate, some of its traditions, what they're willing to potentially reform or change, in particular on the filibuster. We've seen so much over this last year that hasn't been able to got done because of the filibuster. What do you think about some of the proposals to reform or eliminate or create carve-outs in the filibuster so that the Democrats can make good on their campaign promises?
Man, the filibuster should have been scrapped a long time ago. And coming from a state that has Mitch McConnell, I've explained to folks, if we let this Grim Reaper get back into the majority seat, if he needs to scrap the filibuster, he will immediately do it. We are playing politics while people are dying. And it's clear that we have to show leadership now. We need to get rid of the filibuster. Hell, we need to expand the Supreme Court. We need to do the work and deliver results for regular folks who have given up and have lost hope, because this has given rise to Donald Trump. We ignore places like Kentucky. All of this fear and feeling of abandonment and hopelessness has been weaponized. And now we have a January 6th. We cannot ignore folks. And my campaign is a testament to no longer ignoring regular people. So we're gonna keep demanding it together and putting pressure on our leaders at the federal level. And we'll get up there and, like I said, we'll do it ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned earlier the people volunteering for your campaign. If someone would like to get involved, especially relatively early on in the campaign, what are the best ways that they can do that?
Absolutely. So we are doing a lot of organizing for tornado relief, and we still need a lot of help. This is going to take years to address, and for a lot of places, even longer than that. I'm asking you to go to charlesbooker.org/relief. You can sign up to volunteer. And also get involved in supporting our campaign. I'll tell you, people all over the political spectrum are helping us, even folks that voted for Trump, because they realize that this change can't wait, and it isn't partisan, and we have to do it as family. So please help us.
Okay, Charles, we're going to be following your race, one of the most consequential races in this cycle. And hopefully we can touch base as we get a little bit farther in through the election. But best of luck to you, Charles. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you, brother. Absolutely.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.